Hi everyone, welcome to the research conference for the year 2023. My name is Anandi Ashar and I will be presenting to you my research now. The topic for my dissertation is the impact of COVID-19 on LGBT plus and cisgender mental health comparative study. I had made observations of educational videos and teachings during my undergraduate studies and the experiences of gay, non binary, or transgender individuals in my country, India, and also of my interactions with them. That, along with an interview I did with a gay Indian man for a research project back then, informed me of the varied responses in terms of acceptance and treatment towards those who identify as anything but cisgender or heterosexual. This leads me to my research topic. Um, because it further increased my interest in the area. And I myself am an anxious person and I identify as cisgender and heterosexual. And I often wondered how anxiety could be exacerbated for those from within the community, with possibly additional problems that they must face in society. So I chose to be a part of this research group as my original idea was to look at anxiety in the LGBTQI plus community based on my general observations and understanding of mental health and the community. I also thought that there might be, interesting information there, and I wanted to take a qualitative approach. But my group and I decided to consider other variables which would make our research unique and broader, maybe. So we went with a different approach. Um, I'll talk more about the previous research done in this area. Did you know that social support can make a world of difference for transgender individuals? A study by Nutbrock et al. 2010 found that those who had more support from family, friends, and the community reported better mental health and lower levels of depression. On the flip side, those who faced discrimination and violence were more likely to experience depressive symptoms. And if that wasn't enough, engaging in sex work also increased the risk of psychological distress and suicidal ideation for transgender individuals. Unfortunately, discrimination and prejudice are all too common for LGBTQI plus individuals, and the effects can be devastating. Research by Meyer 2003 discovered that lesbian, gay, and bisexual individuals all have higher rates of mood and anxiety disorders than their heterosexual counterparts. The COVID-19 pandemic was a variable that we factored into our research. The pandemic has had a significant impact on mental health, and members of the LGBT plus community may be at increased risk for negative outcomes. While studies have documented the pandemic's impact on the general population's mental health, few have examined the impact on vulnerable populations like people of the community. Understanding the unique challenges that LGBT plus people may face during the pandemic is critical for developing effective interventions and support systems that can address their mental health needs. So, I'll talk about the hypothesis now. Um, our first hypothesis was that reported anxiety before, during, and after COVID 19 will be higher in LGBT plus individuals than in heterosexual cisgender individuals. The second hypothesis was that reported anxiety before, during, and after COVID 19 will be lower for those reporting higher levels of resilience. Hypothesis 3 was that higher levels of connectedness will be reported for those during COVID 19 relative to before and after COVID 19. Reported anxiety during COVID 19 will be lower for those reporting lower levels of connectedness, was the fourth hypothesis. I'll talk about the methods now. Um, participants, the study aimed to recruit 100 participants from three countries who identified as cisgender, straight, non binary, or LGBTQIA. Participants were recruited via social media and opportunity sampling from students at the Bangor University using a survey in two languages, English and Welsh, with no incentives offered. The study was a quantitative mixed method design with a 3 into 3 factorial design. The independent variables were gender, male female author sexuality within or outside the LGBTQI plus community, and time, which is before, during, and after the COVID-19 pandemic. The dependent variables were anxiety, resilience, and connectedness. All participants were invited to complete one online questionnaire through a link to the Qualtrics survey software page and the School of Human and Behavioral Sciences Student Participant Panel, which is SONA. The survey included measures for all three dependent variables: anxiety, was the promise short anxiety form, resilience was the brief resilience scale, and connectedness was the social connectedness scale. You will find more information on these measures and references to the validity and reliability of these questionnaires in the handout, and more information throughout the research project in the handout. Um, Participants were invited to complete the online questionnaire, which was again circulated online. The questionnaire consisted of an information sheet. It explained the nature and purpose of the study. It also included signposting. It also included a consent form, information on confidentiality, right to withdraw, and so on. Um, there were ethical considerations for the study. It follows ethical guidelines set by the British Psychological Society and the BACP, and also is approved by Bangor University. When we talk about the results for this study, there were 150 participants who took the study. The mean age was 26.06 years, and a range of 18 to 59 years was found. The mean for cisgender data was 1.06, and the mean for sexuality was 1.86. The quantitative data was analyzed accordingly. There were zero transgender individuals in the data, as it was incomplete, unfortunately, so it had to be removed. You will find more tables um, as I go on, and I will explain more in the handout. Um, there were differences in anxiety before COVID 19 based on sexuality, and anxiety before COVID 19 based on cisgender population. And there were a total of 110 responses for sexuality when the data was combined with anxiety. um, the following are the means, and there was a statistically significant difference between groups and anxiety before COVID 19 and sexuality, as determined by a one way ANOVA, at a 0.044 significance. As I move on to the findings of the research, the measures used for data analysis did not bring any significant results. Um, the significance in scores obtained and interpreted from the sexuality and anxiety before COVID 19 variables. The data for heterosexual, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and other populations was analyzed, and it was found that heterosexual and bisexual individuals experienced anxiety significantly more. However, there was no significant difference in anxiety levels between the two groups after COVID 19. Finding a significant difference in anxiety levels before the onset of the COVID 19 pandemic, when correlated with sexuality, is significant for understanding the mental health needs of different marginalized communities. It highlights for us the importance of addressing the unique challenges faced by sexual minority individuals in accessing healthcare and support, particularly pertaining to mental health. This particular finding also suggests that pre existing anxiety levels could have played a role in the differential impact of COVID 19 on the mental health outcomes across different sexual groups. However, as the response was limited to about 100 individuals with a small ethnicity range, these findings cannot be generalized to a wider population. The survey only gained responses from the UK, India, and America, and it was mainly uh, circulated within the UK. Um, there are three key findings of the present research. First is that heterosexual and bisexual individuals reported higher anxiety levels before COVID 19 than cisgender individuals, and also as compared to during and after the COVID 19 pandemic. There were no significant differences in resilience levels between LGBT plus individuals and cisgender individuals before and after COVID 19. There were no significant differences in social connectedness between LGBT plus individuals and cisgender individuals before and after COVID 19. On the other hand, with the identification of these disparities in mental health outcomes, interventions can be curated to meet the specific needs of sexual minority individuals and improve overall mental health outcomes for individuals belonging to these communities. This study fills a gap in the literature by providing insight into the mental health status of LGBT plus individuals during the pandemic. This finding is also partially consistent with previous research that has found higher rates of anxiety among bisexual individuals compared to heterosexual individuals, and the references will be found at the end of the presentation in the handout. Um, However, it is important to note that no significant difference was found in anxiety levels before and during COVID 19 among all groups. Based on these results, we suggest that while pre existing societal and individual factors may contribute to anxiety in certain minority groups, the pandemic may have affected all individuals regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Furthermore, it is important to note that the data did not include any transgender individuals due to incomplete information in their questionnaires. Hence, the results apply only to heterosexuals, bisexuals, and cisgender individuals. Additionally, the homogeneity of variances was violated for anxiety levels in the cisgender population, so separate variances were used for the before and after COVID 19 reports. And we move on to the limitations and what we can do about the future research that may be carried out when it comes to studies related to this topic. um, Research has shown that LGBT plus individuals have remarkable resilience and coping mechanisms when dealing with minority stress, as demonstrated by previous studies by Hudson Butler and Matsuno and Israel. This emphasizes the need to delve into the effects of the pandemic on the mental health of both LGBT plus and heterosexual cisgender individuals. By doing so, we can gain valuable insights and make strides in addressing any potential disparities that may exist. In addition to the limited sample size and cultural implications, the study could have benefited from a mixed method, or rather, a qualitative approach. It could have been used to gather more detailed and nuanced insights from participants about their experiences with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on previous ongoing or novel outputs of negative mental health experiences, which could have shed some light on why there was no significant difference. Future studies could also benefit from a more diverse sample of broader representation of cultural contexts within the participants by way of obtaining a larger and varied sample size geographically when it comes to sexual orientation and also culturally. By addressing these issues, we can further our understanding of how interventions can be designed and implemented to effectively promote behavior change and improve health outcomes. There is a need for more research on interventions that can support the mental health of the transgender individuals during the pandemic. Replicating the study with people from racial and ethnic minority populations will also be significant because they are frequently victims of hate crimes due to their ethnicity as well as their sexual orientation. These findings have significant implications for therapeutic approaches as well, and they emphasize the need for measures to address and promote mental health and well being for all individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation. My learning from this research is that the COVID 19 pandemic has had a significant impact on mental health across the board, and members of the LGBTQI plus community may be at increased risk for negative outcomes. Discrimination and prejudice are all too common from individuals belonging to the community, and the effects can be devastating. Understanding the unique challenges that LGBTQI plus people may face during the pandemic is critical for developing effective interventions and support systems that can address their mental health needs. This highlights the need for ongoing research and support for the LGBTQI+ community, particularly during the times of crisis such as a pandemic. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day with the conference, and I hope you find more relative information in the handout. Thank you.